Die Hard, the 80s Christmas classic changed the action movie landscape forever. By the 80s, action movies used to follow a very similar pattern. Your hero, a godlike ubermensch, muscles on top of shimmering muscles, was armed with a vocabulary limited to grunts and one-liners, mowing down entire armies without breaking a sweat. They would flex, decimate, and drop dad-level puns as they tore their enemies in half. But then along came John McClane, a near-divorced New York cop, sporting a fetching dirty vest and a real bad attitude. No shoes, no backup, no problem. He had absolutely no business being in an 80s action movie. And yet, his impact on the genre has been immeasurable. Die Hard turned the genre on its head, giving us a flawed, foul-mouthed everyman who fought terrorists with nothing but grit, improvisation, and a serious disregard for property damage. And so, to celebrate this festive season, we here at the Cinematic Science Lab are bringing McClane under the microscope. And to do this, on Christmas Eve, we're going to start with a lengthy bit of firehose.
Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew?
Trapped on top of the Nakatomi building, the roof has been rigged to blow. And McClane? He decides to wrap a fire hose around his waist and jump. It's a rooftop rig job that defies gravity, physics, and probably every OSHA guideline in existence at the time. As McClane leaps off the roof's edge, the rooftop explodes behind him, engulfing him in flames and debris. The hose breaks his fall, and possibly a few ribs as well, as he slams into a window some 4 or 5 stories below. He has to move fast before the hose breaks free from the building itself, so with gun in hand, he unloads and smashes his way through the heavy plate glass window, frees himself in the nick of time, and somehow lives to chain smoke another day. It's both insane and iconic at the same time, and it's exactly the kind of Hollywood stunt that we just love to ruin. So tonight, we're asking, could you survive the fire hose escape?
Oh, John, what the fuck are you doing?
Now, we here at the CSL Lab are sure that most of you have seen this classic Christmas movie.
Now, please listen very carefully. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Okay, fine. A classic Christmas Bruce Willis movie. So without further ado, let's go deep into the science of this fantastic escape. In order to escape the explosion, McClane chooses to wrap a fire hose around his waist, leap off the 35-story skyscraper, pendulum swing past flaming debris, and smash through a plate glass window. But what's actually going on here? Fire hoses are tough. Most modern ones are made from woven synthetic fibres like nylon, polyester, or Kevlar. And they're built to handle hundreds of pounds per square inch of water pressure, resist abrasion, and survive rough conditions. Here's the catch. They're designed to move water, not catch and hold a falling human body hurtling off a building. Now let's say that McClane weighs 180 to 200 pounds. The moment that hose goes taut, his body is converting gravitational potential energy into a massive jerk force, and that's a sudden tension over a short distance. That is upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of force, all focused on the hose itself, the anchor point on the roof, and McClane's delicate internal organs. So we can concede that the hose could potentially hold strong, but only under ideal lab conditions. Now, let's talk swing dynamics. And I'm not talking about that couple that gave you that look in the bar last night. When McClane jumps, he's essentially performing a pendulum motion, like a little bleeding foul-mouthed wrecking ball. And at the bottom of that arc, maximum velocity. At reaching that point, he's likely travelling at 25 to 30 miles an hour. Now that's fast enough to break most of your ribs if you're flying right into toughened glass. So here's where the film throws a moment of tactical brilliance on the part of McClane. He pushes back to build that momentum again, and he pre-shatters the window by shooting it as he approaches. Smart move, because that glass? It's almost certainly tempered safety glass, the kind used in high-rises to avoid deadly shards when it breaks. It's strong, up to 5 times stronger than regular glass, and designed to stay intact under stress. You can't just smash your way through it like you're the champion of gladiators. You need a serious impact, or, in this case, a few well-placed bullets. So does shooting the glass improve his chances? Oh yes, definitely. But here's the rub. Even with the glass weakened, he's now slamming through a shower of shards, then hitting the office floor inside, all while a fire hose yanks him back from falling further. And keep in mind, he's doing all of this while holding a gun, bleeding from multiple wounds, and recovering from a rooftop explosion. So yes, shooting the glass improves the odds of breaking in, but it does nothing for the whole surviving the impact without turning into drywall paste part. And the scene wouldn't be complete without Hollywood's favourite science-defying special effect, the mid-air explosion. Let's be clear, explosions don't wait politely for you to clear the blast zone. Shockwaves move at thousands of feet per second, and they're not here for your dramatic timing. By the time McClane finishes his leap, the pressure wave from the detonation would be heating the surrounding air to several thousand degrees Fahrenheit, sending debris flying at lethal velocities, and exerting up to 200 psi of overpressure in the first few meters. So even if the fire doesn't fry him, the shockwave would most likely dislocate all his joints, rupture his eardrums, and knock him out cold from the impact. Oh, and fun fact, that's not what a real C4 or plastic explosive detonation looks like. That's mostly fuel and special effects gas additives for visual flair. A real high explosive blast isn't some slow-motion Hollywood fireball, it's faster, flatter, far more lethal. The detonation wave from a high explosive like C4 travels at roughly 8,000 meters per second. That's Mach 23. By the time you hear the blast, the shockwave has already hit you. Real blasts don't produce towering fireballs unless there's a ton of fuel to ignite. A true detonation is more like a violent bubble of overpressure, expanding outwards in all directions and crushing anything in its path. The temperatures at the blast center can hit over 4,000 degrees centigrade or 7,200 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to vaporize metal and flash ignite human tissue. The concussive force isn't just loud noise, it propels shrapnel, glass, and concrete fragments like bullets. So if you're looking for a physics-based push off the rooftop, try jumping in front of a freight train instead.
Disclaimer: do not jump in front of a freight train, people.
Now that we've broken down the elements that make up this sequence, let's look at whether you would actually survive this. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you've got a military-grade fire hose, a solid anchor point to support your weight, and McClane levels of confidence minus the emotional baggage. Here's what is unfortunately working against you. We've already discussed that fire hoses are strong, but they're not climbing or rappelling ropes, and they're definitely not shock-absorbing bungee cords. Let's compare a standard, professionally made rappelling rope used by mountaineers to a standard modern double-jacket synthetic fire hose used by firemen. A climbing rope would offer around 6 to 10% of dynamic elasticity, up to 40% impact force reduction, and is specifically manufactured to provide shock mitigation in order to prevent spinal compression. Using a fire hose instead could offer, at best, around 0.5% dynamic elasticity and practically no impact force reduction, nor any shock mitigation at all. Because, again, fire hoses aren't meant to catch falling humans. They're meant to not burst when filled with water at 200 psi. Two very different applications. If you are really going to try this, it is also important to take into consideration your fleshy, meaty weight on the line as well. In the movie, we see McClane tie the hose around his waist for safety. Now, if you did this as well, what would the outcome be? In harness physics, the human waist can safely distribute around 2 to 4 kilonewtons, or 450 to 900 pounds. Now, taking into consideration that you would be falling at up to 30 miles an hour, when the hose goes taut and halts your falling momentum, the resulting sudden shock from that speed could produce anything between 15 and 20 kilonewtons, or 3,300 to 4,500 pounds. That's up to 5 times the force your waist could handle. So, unless you can reinforce your abs with adamantium, you'd practically be torn in half before you hit the window. But hey, let's go just one step further. Let's say that in spite of all of this, you just about survive up to this point. There is still one other element to factor in here, and it is vastly more important than even the movie considers. Yep, that bright red drum mounted to a rooftop plumbing fixture. In the movie, it plays a small but important part to the sequence, not only halting our hero's descent momentarily, but also throwing up another potential death trap by almost dragging him back out of the window again. But should this happen to you, well, let's just say that the science truly goes to hell right here. Let's start with the engineering factor. A standard commercial fire hose reel is designed for holding a 100 to 130 foot fire hose, and the reel mounting bracket typically uses around 4 masonry or expansion bolts, each rated for shear loads of between 200 and 400 pounds. This would equate to a combined anchoring load of up to 1,600 pounds, and this is under static conditions. It's meant to hold the hose while water flows through it, and not a 180-pound cop bungee jumping off a multi-storey building. Now, when the hose goes taut, as we've already discussed, it's nearly 3,500 pounds of dynamic load at the anchor point, and McClane jumps moments before the roof explodes. Thanks to the near 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit of heat emanating from the blast, not to mention the explosive pressure it causes, those mounting bolts would become softer and thus more prone to shear. The reel drum itself would heat up, reducing its structural rigidity, and the metal fixtures would expand in the heat, loosening the fittings. Yes, we see the reel detach almost instantly from the building when McClane reaches the end of his hose, and thanks to Hollywood coincidence, the weight of the heavy metal reel acts as a temporary counterbalance against the side of the building. Is this feasible? Just about, at a stretch. But remember that the reel drum goes from hero to villain in almost the blink of an eye, because when our hero has smashed his way through the window, the drum finally topples over the side, and before McClane has a chance to catch his breath, it sails past the window and starts to drag him back out over the side. That reel drum would weigh around 75 to 110 pounds on average. When it continues over the side and falls off the building, it would generate additional downward momentum and a sudden shock load to McClane's waist. We've already seen how his inner organs would be pulverised from the initial jerk factor, but now we're talking complete pelvic fractures, organ tearing, lumbar compression, and a very rapid involuntary exit from the building. So could this be done in real life? Well, with extreme rappelling equipment, several weeks of preparation, a top-notch stunt team, controlled visual explosives, professional wire rigs, and medical personnel on standby? Maybe. But could you do it off the cuff, bleeding, barefoot and under fire? No. Just no. Now, believe it or not, some fire department academies have tested controlled rappelling using actual hoses. Because in theory, if your professional gear fails, a spare hose is technically strong enough to act as an emergency descent line. But here's the catch. The hose must be dry, clean, and in perfect condition. It has to be wrapped through a descending device, not a human torso. And it must be done under supervision, low height, and with safety harnesses. Even in this controlled setting, the verdict came up as clunky, dangerous, and barely manageable. So trying to free fall with one tied around your waist? That's less a fire escape and more a live action donor registration. Let us not forget our favourite genre of online lunatics. Urban explorers, parkour specialists, and those amateur stuntmen with GoPros and zero life insurance. Across social media, you'll find people swinging between rooftops, jumping off cranes, and even rappelling using bed sheets, cables, or, yes, fire hoses that they borrowed from abandoned buildings. So the only thing separating McClane from those guys is better edge lighting and a full-blown Michael Kamen score. Of course, we mustn't forget that there's the other part of the stunt sequence, smashing through glass. And plenty of people have tried jumping through sugar glass for movie-style stunts. but with actual tempered glass office windows.
I think my motivation on this one is I'm in a skyscraper and it's going to blow up.
Looking for the first pane of glass. It's the train. It's it hard, but it breaks.
Alright, we've run the numbers. We've reviewed the physics. So now let's get brutally honest. Could John McClane survive the firehose escape in real life? Let's fully break down the sequence, beat by bone-shattering beat. And remember, we are analysing the sequence exactly as it's presented in the movie, regardless of the professional, seasoned experts in special effects, cinematography, and of course stunt work. We are looking at this scene as it is presented in the film. We witness McClane jump off the 36th floor right as the rooftop explodes in a glorious ball of flame and debris. This moment is not subtle. That roof detonates less than 2 seconds after McClane jumps. Hell, he's even engulfed in the explosion on screen. So let's assume a best case scenario. He's 5 or 10 feet below the blast line when it goes off. And even then, the overpressure shockwave would most likely burst his eardrums, cause lung barotrauma, and disorient him mid-swing. The heat from the blast would burn any exposed skin, especially around his arms and neck. The flying debris, pieces of steel beam, brick or glass, would strike him mid-air with the velocity of ammunition. And remember, McClane's plan hinges on doing this all while free-falling, dangling, bleeding, and trying not to pass out. So the verdict on this element? If the fall or the glass doesn't get him, the explosion would finish him off. So now we have McClane falling from the skyscraper with added shockwave from the explosion. And then all of a sudden, the hose snaps tight like a whip. Remember, that's not just a jolt, it's a full body whiplash that redirects his motion abruptly, placing thousands of pounds of force directly on his waist, spine, and internal organs. And of course, he doesn't have any climbing harness. He's tied to that hose around his abdomen, right where his kidneys, liver, and lower spine all hang out, trying to mind their own business. Crushed ribs, liver laceration, spinal disc rupture, maybe even aortic shear, where the sudden force tears your largest artery in half. So the fire hose snapped taut. Our hero breaks his fall, and then he's slammed into the toughened glass window like a bloody meat pendulum. And then McClane must act quick before prime barbecue-fed agents and Huey come raining down and sending him to the lobby without an elevator. Now remember, to his credit, McClane's quick thinking makes him do the smart thing. He shoots the glass before impact. But it's still not good news for McClane. He hits that window pretty hard. Even pre-shattered, it is still glass, and it is still sharp. McClane can even enjoy more lacerations to his face, arms, and torso. Maybe even concussion from the secondary impact with the floor as he lands, and glass embedded deep enough to require surgical removal if he makes it to surgery at all. And finally, assuming miracle of miracles, McClane survives the jump, the swing, the impact, and the fireball. Now what? He's semi-conscious, injured, and still attached to a fire hose that's now acting like a suicide anchor pulling him out of the window. After an excruciating few seconds of tension, he just about musters the strength to pull himself back and untie the hose just in time to avoid being yanked out of the window to his death. So let's be real, that's not adrenaline he's relying on, but 100% plot armor. Because if you've just suffered a spinal jolt, a major concussion, blood loss from multiple wounds, and almost complete high-degree burns, your body isn't getting up to perform anything right now. So even if he survived the entry, he'd almost certainly die being dragged unconscious out of the window mere seconds later. There's no escaping it. This whole sequence is the action equivalent of shouting YOLO and helping the laws of physics are too drunk to care this Christmas. But there is also no denying that it is a truly epic moment in action cinema. Perfect culmination of superb plotting, phenomenal action choreography, superlative craftwork from everyone involved, and a thrilling presentation for the movie-loving audience. We at the Cinematic Science Lab remain true film nerds at heart, And Die Hard is one of the most exalted movies, sitting on the highest pedestal that we possess. From the opening introduction of our hero to the climactic kiss of lovers reunited, this holiday classic is one for the ages. And like in all the best movies, the real-world science gives way politely to the wonders of Hollywood. Who cares if the roof escape could only happen in a movie? The fact that audiences come out with a smile a mile wide and a heart rate above 170 is exactly what we pay good money for. And while it seems so dirty to pick apart such a classic movie, we hope that you do enjoy our brave attempts to try. Thanks again for watching the Cinematic Science Lab. If you've enjoyed getting one over on Hans Gruber and the gang, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and share this video with everyone you know who will like it too. We look forward to strapping on the lab coats for our next Hollywood science debunking. So until next time, stay grounded, stay skeptical, and for the love of Jesus, please don't jump off of rooftops with plumbing supplies.
Happy trails, Hans.